Hello, everyone. I am Rohit, your host for the day, and I welcome you all with great joy and immense pleasure to the guest lecture of Club Sankalp 2024-25. Before proceeding with the event, let us show what Club Sankalp is all about. Club Sankalp is the official leadership and nation building club of IFHE. It was founded with the view to inculcate social and leadership capabilities in the students. Let us now see the video. Sankalp is the official leadership and nation building club of IFHE. It was founded with the view to inculcate social and leadership capabilities in the students. We work with the aim to potential for the well-being of society. Our motto is to serve, lead, and inspire, to impact lives, be the change. We function on our three pillars: corporate, social, and political leadership. Our major events are social events, Drishti and Wishing Tree, corporate event Magnet, and flagship event Majistanos. I hope you are all geared up for what is planned. Today, we are here to welcome our guest, Miss Raj Narayana, CEO and founder of Emajin Golf. She will be sharing her valuable insights on strategic networking to enhance your networking skills and leverage connections effectively. Imagine Gulf is all about imagining possibilities with exceptional networking events and golf. Raj is a passionate entrepreneur and crusader for positive experiences around the game she loves, while contributing to her members through networking and connections.
Hello, everyone. Can you see me and hear me? If not, please speak up.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am. You have.
you can hear me? Very good. Look, first I
Hello.
want to, yes, that's great.
Yes, ma'am. You are visible and audible.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Lauren. Look, firstly, before I start my presentation, I just wanted to take a minute and thank you, Rohit, for that lovely introduction. And I want to just thank Varun Shah and Club Sankalp for approaching me and for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. Today, what I'm going to do is be sharing my thoughts and experiences on strategic networking. It's great to hear that your ambitious goals to serve, lead, and inspire, and build pillars around corporate, social, and political initiatives. And in all of those initiatives, whether it be corporate, social, or political, or even in your future careers, as you leave, your studies and go into various corporate futures, networking is a key part of life, and networking is a key part of your career progression and career growth. So today I'm going to share some insights, but what I'd love to make it as an interactive session. So if any of you feel like you have a question or want to share something or ask anything, do not hesitate to just unmute yourself and interrupt me and just share your ask your question. It's a lot better because mostly when you're asking me something, the others are thinking the same thing. So it's a great way to have an interactive session. So I've got a few slides, just to facilitate this discussion. So I'm going to share my screen and then go from there. I'm also happy for you to put any comments in the chat. And Varun, if I could ask you to help me, if there are any questions or comments raised in the chat, if people didn't want to ask them themselves, I'm quite happy for you to interrupt me and ask those if that's all right, because it's a bit hard to be looking at the chat and talking at the same time. So without further ado, let me share my screen and put that on slideshow. There you go. So are you able to see this now? And I'm going to just continue. And if you can't hear me or anything, please do not hesitate to have a chat. So I won't introduce myself because Rohit has done a fabulous job of giving you my background, but I will talk a bit about my background a bit later on. But let me start with this interesting quote. This is a quote by Porter Gale, and he says, "Your network is your net worth." Now, I want you all to close your eyes for 1 minute and just contemplate this quote. Your network is your net worth. Now, if your network is actually your net worth, I want you to ask yourself 3 key questions. Before this, firstly, do you agree with the statement? And then ask yourself 3 key questions. If your network indeed is your net worth, then what is your net worth? You're all business or MBA students, so I want you to kind of think about it for a minute. And the second thing is, are you happy with this amount? So what is your net worth, and are you happy with this amount? And the third question I'm going to ask you is, are you looking to grow your net worth further? Now, if the answer is yes, I'm assuming that all of you are here on a Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. So I'm assuming you do want to learn more about this topic. And I'm preaching to the converted. So I hope you're keen to build your network. And that is what today's talk is all about. Firstly, before we carry on, I'm just going to be very blunt and say this. And this is not said enough. And it's basically that despite the importance we place on our career, on our personal growth, on progressing both personal and professional endeavors, we just do not network enough. I'm a serial networker, and I feel that I do not network enough. And I'm quite confident each and every one of you do not network enough. And because if you think about everyone you know, only 1 in 10 people is probably doing networking the right amount and also networking in the right way. And basically the gist of what I'm going to say is, yes, of course, we all need to network more. It doesn't matter if you work in a large company or you're a business owner. It doesn't matter if you're a student, if you're taking a year off work, if you're going on a holiday, if you're 2 years away from retirement. At any point in your career, you need to network more. And why is that? Networking makes not only your life and your career, both of it better. So without further ado, I'm going to keep continuing with this conversation. So let me give you a bit of my background, just my story so far. So to give you a perspective of where I've come from and where I am on my journey. So I was born in India, and I was born in Chennai. And then I actually did all of my schooling in Mumbai. And yes, and then I spent actually a couple of years in Hyderabad. I went to St. Francis College over there in Begumpet, and I did some of my university there. And then I've moved to Sydney, Sydney in Australia, to study my undergraduate at University of New South Wales. After my course, I studied finance and economics, and went and worked in audit, accounting, and then in banking. I worked for many years in banking. I've done an MBA at the London Business School and have done various roles in banking, and the most recent one being as COO, so Chief Operating Officer at Westpac Private Bank. So Westpac is a very large bank in Australia, and also through various other roles like Head of Strategy, Relationship Manager, Relationship Banking, but predominantly worked in sales and marketing roles across a long career. And during this time, I actually ended up playing a lot of golf because at least in Australia, and I'm quite sure that's the same in India as well, is banking as an industry is very male dominated, and golf is a very significant part of the finance industry. So we have a lot of golf days, people do a lot of networking or business transactions on the golf course. So if you didn't play golf, you really miss out on a lot of business. So I took up golf somewhere during my career and then absolutely fell in love with it. So I played a lot of golf, and fast forward a few years, I was a women's captain at New South Wales Golf Club, went on the board there, and I spent a couple of years in the Golf New South Wales Advisory Committee, which is a governing body of golf in New South Wales, and then decided to start my own business about 2.5 years ago, connecting golf and business. And we have about 7,500 people as our members in our member base, and predominantly C-suite executives, business owners, and entrepreneurs. And what we do is we are a large networking group. So we run many events across Australia. We have senior keynote speakers and allow our members to communicate. And in this process, you know what I mean, what I've realized is that networking is the key to a better life and career. And it's really very important in progressing you, because irrespective of the capabilities you may have, the intellect you may have, being in the right place at the right time, building these strong connections, and building a series of people who are going to be your promoters within the workforce, within your organization, makes a huge impact in your career trajectory. So, of course, intelligence, effort, and capability are all very relevant. But in addition, networking and having some excellent networking skills is going to propel your career forward. And today I'm going to share a lot of my insights, but also some supporting research on the benefits of networking. Now, let me start with the traditional form of networking. So if you talk about networking, people think, you know, you go to these big rooms, there are a whole bunch of people there, you give your elevator pitch, you exchange a bunch of business cards, and you walk around the room schmoozing and talking to people and trying to create a great impression. Now, this is the traditional form of what we call networking. But realistically, there are some fundamental issues with this style of networking. I'm not saying it doesn't work. Of course it does. You do build some connections, and you do, you know, give away your business card, and you do get some business cards, and you may connect with those people. And I've had this so many times in my experiences. I go to this big room of 100 people, I've exchanged all these business cards, I come back to my office, and then I'm trying to connect with them on LinkedIn. I say, okay, look, let me connect with all these people. And sometimes you go in there and people have got pictures of themselves from 20 years ago. So you don't even recognize who these people are, and you don't even remember having met them in a room full of 100 people. And then you're looking at their business card and looking at, you know, I mean, the company name and making sure that this is the right person before you connect with them on LinkedIn. And you kind of think, well, how strong could this relationship actually be? You know, how deep is it going to be, and how much value am I going to really generate, either from this relationship or giving to this relationship? Because I don't even know this person. I've just got a business card, I'm connecting with them on LinkedIn. So it's very, very transactional and very hard to create, you know, something more meaningful. And some of the biases that happen as well with this form of networking is, the first one is a similarity bias. So when you walk into a room and fleetingly walk in there and connect with a bunch of people, and say it was me walking into a room, and there were a few women standing in one corner over there, it's a natural that I might gravitate towards them. Or if I found some people of my same similar age, I may gravitate towards them. Or from my same school, if I see some people from my same school, I'm like, oh, you know what? You gravitate towards similar people. And this similarity bias is very powerful. And I'm not talking about, this is not like, so what happens, I'll give you an example and then I'll talk more about it. But basically, if you look at the Journal of Applied Social Psychology, researchers did this massive report and they've done this where they said that when people were giving loans, so for distressed businesses were seeking loans, and when the lenders were going to meet these people, there was an unconscious bias where people lent money to people who come from similar backgrounds or similar experiences as them, perhaps from the same school, perhaps from the same, neighborhood or life experiences. And this is very interesting because, as business students, you'll realize that when you're lending money, you have all this information about the business, the balance sheet, the assets, the future plans, the financial projections. So what is very quantitative a decision in terms of should I lend or not? Trust forms a big factor of lending, and trust is created by an emotional connection, not just the pure financials, not just the pure numbers, but there is human interaction element in there, which forms a basis of trust. And it's really true, and you will find that in all aspects of your life. And this is not discrimination or partiality or familiarity or anything. It's unconscious. People don't realize they're doing it. You just see it and walk towards this. So there are some implicit biases. The second aspect is that the relationships are very transient. So if I walked into a room, I got your business card and I connected with you, it's quite likely that, did you have a question? Okay? No. It's
Recording in progress.
It's quite likely as well that these relationships are not going to be long-standing. I'm going to meet them, I'm going to have, remember them fleetingly. And, the relationships tend to be very transient and short-lived. What this also does, the traditional forms of networking, it favors extroverts. So if you're very extroverted and you're able to walk in and make a lot of connections and contacts, it makes it a lot easier to build those relationships. And if you're slightly introverted or feel a bit shy or are not the person who's going to walk in and talk to 100 people at the same time, then obviously you're disadvantaged in some ways because, you don't have the benefit of being an extrovert. And the fourth aspect of it is you don't end up having network effects. So your connections stay within that room, inside those four walls. And what I mean by this is, say I meet Varun, I meet with him and talk to him, and there's one day I go away, I connect with him on LinkedIn, and that's the extent of our relationship. Then what basically happens is Varun may very well connect with me or give me a piece of business or some assistance, but he's not going to be going and talking to 4 of his friends and telling them about what I do, my business, Emajin Golf. So invariably, those kind of relationships end up not having a network effect, because the biggest value for you as an individual, or if you're running a business for your business, is that if you end up having customers, that they tell 4 other people, and they in turn tell 4 other people, and you create this massive network effect of relationships and connections, and you end up not having that. And today, the talk is all about strategic networking. So it's not the traditional form of networking, it's strategic. And what it basically does is it overcomes these similarity biases. And you can do this irrespective of your personality type, whether you're introverted or extroverted, it really doesn't matter. Your relationships do not degrade quickly and end up long lasting. And what you also experience is the network effects of your relationship. Now you might say, oh, this sounds very interesting. I'd love to have some of this. Thank you very much. But, and that is what today I'm going to share with you today. So what are the 3 key takeaways I want to have? I always say with anything you present, there's going to be 3 key takeaways, because I just think that 2 is too little and 4 is too many. So today we're going to I would like you to leave with 3 key things. Understanding the principles of strategic networking. The second one is navigating power dynamics. And what I mean by that is many times when you're networking, you may be connecting with people above your station or people below your station. So your bosses, your subordinates. So understanding how you network and how you interact with these people across these various hierarchies in organization, because not everyone is equal. So understanding those power dynamics and navigating them is one of the things I want you to take away. And the third aspect is the power of asking. Now, obviously, with all networking, now networking is different to friendship. You may be friends and hang around and talk to people. But when you're networking, you're looking to do business with them. You're looking to form a connection that is professional. So invariably in this relationship over time, at some point, you're going to ask for their business or ask them for a favor or ask them for a transaction or ask them for another connection. So there is always an ask that is going to come with any kind of networking. And understanding how to ask, when to ask, and the right way to ask will increase the probability of success in getting the outcome that you require, whether it be a promotion, whether it be a new project, whether it be winning a transaction, whatever it may be. So these are the three key things that we're going to leave with today. So I'm going to talk a bit about strategic networking principles. Yeah. So the principle one is building meaningful relationships. Now, many of you might have heard these cliches. It's not what you know, but who you know that matters. I don't know whether you've heard about it, but this is quite a cliche that people always say. It's not what you know, but who you know that matters. But I want to kind of make a small variation to this and just say that it's not what you know, it's who you know, as long as the people you know actually like you. It's not really valuable if you know a lot of people and they all don't like you or think poorly of you. So, and this makes a big difference between the transactional relationships and strategic connections that you make or meaningful relationships that you make. And I'm going to give you a small example. So think about your local barista. You know, you may be going and buying a cup of coffee in the morning at your local cafe or, breakfast at your local store. And you walk in there every day and you ask them for their coffee or the toast or whatever it is you're eating. And, they serve you the food and you walk away. Now, if at all at that interaction, and I know I'm giving you a very simple example, but sometimes I feel the simple examples highlight the fact a lot easier. And say you walk in there and you ask this person, hey, what's your name? Understand their name, right? Get their name. Ask them where they're from. Understand who they, who they are and where they come from. And what it does is creates a familiarity, a connection between you and that person, right? So, and as you go in the next time, the magic actually happens. You walk in, they already know your order. They say, hey, is this your order? You walk in and they introduce you to someone else. You walk in, they start suggesting nice restaurants that you can go to for dinner. One day you walk in and you forgot your wallet and they say, you know what? Have the coffee and toast. Pay me the next time when you come into this restaurant. And this is what a familiarity creates. And this is what, taking the time to learn who they are and understand who the person is has created for you. And this is exactly true in the work and your business as well. Like you might be a, manager and you might be leading 5 people. It's really important to go and understand who they are, what they do, what they did on their weekend. And the same goes for your boss. Same goes for your peers. Taking the time to make those meaningful connections and really understanding who you're interacting with really builds this thing. So how can we create this? The first tip about this I'm going to share is it's a two-way street. So when you make a connection, the first thing I want you to think about is how can I help this person? Not what can they give me, but how can I help this person? How can I connect them to someone I know? How can I provide them with a referral for the business they're in? Or how can I give them a connection in their education or the studies they're doing? So what this does is the more you think about what you can give, it's a two-way street. So when you make that connection and you're generous in the start, what it does is it creates this stronger bond and they in turn want to help you. The second aspect, like anything in life, this is not really a strategy, more like a tactic, but no strategy will work without this. And it is basically, and it applies to all things in life, is that it takes effort. There's no such thing as a magic pill that you can take. Suddenly you become successful and great and amazing networker and great in your career. I wish there was, because then everybody would be billionaires. But basically, nothing happens overnight. And people talk about these, massive success stories, and they say, "Oh, this guy, he, dropped out of school and then he became a massive billionaire," or "this company, they became an overnight success." And you kind of go, "Look, not really. They were not an overnight success. They were probably running this business for 14 years, and then they became an overnight success." So effectively, the one thing that I want to kind of say is, there's only one real secret to success, and that's working longer and harder than anybody else. And that actually applies to networking as well. So basically, putting in the effort to make these connections. So if you go into a place, you connect with people, follow up, ask them for an additional meeting, connect with them, add value, and this continues on. And in life, it's a lot of it, I say, the law of averages. So people talk about high school dropouts becoming billionaires. And what I'll say is that, yes, there's Bill Gates and, Elon Musk and a couple of people like that. But the reality is, for every high school dropout who became a billionaire, there are many, many people who are homeless or not doing very well or packing shelves somewhere. So, and the same goes for, university. And I call this the law of averages. So on average, if you've got an undergraduate degree, you're going to do better than someone who just finished at high school. On average, if you've got a master's degree, you're going to do better than somebody who has an undergraduate degree. On average, if you have greater number of years of experience, you're going to be at a higher pay scale and greater, higher along in the corporate ladder than someone with less experience. Of course, exceptions always exist and people always, rise up the ranks faster or whatever. But in general, a law of averages applies. Law of average applies. And a lot of it is driven by effort, time, and what you put in is what you get. And the third aspect that I want to talk about in strategic networking is building a community. Of course, having a great network of connections and people who may support you is fabulous in a career. But building a community around you is a lot more powerful. And I'll talk a bit more about that later on today as well. But basically, let me share a couple of research studies with you. So in the US, the Surgeon General did this big research, and they released a report that was called Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation. And what they found was that loneliness and social isolation increased the risk for premature death by 26% and 29% respectively. And it says that lacking social connection is the equivalent of smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. So as harmful for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And it's a very interesting study that was done. And a similar study was done in Australia as well by KPMG. And they found that 5 million Australians were affected by this epidemic called loneliness. And loneliness is an epidemic that you could be in a room full of people and still be fairly lonely. So it doesn't mean that you're surrounded by a lot of people. It actually means that you need to have genuine supporting connections with those people. And that is what I'm going to talk about a bit later around creating a community. A community is a group of people who come in and support you at various things that you might do. You're running an event, they come and support you. You're working on your paper, they support you. So this is a group of people who are, and then, for example, they could be your previous bosses or future bosses. They mentor you through your career. You may be doing a course, they suggest some books for you to read, courses for you to go to. The people who take a genuine interest and build those relationships. And that actually comes from you connecting with and building those relationships during your career. What I talked about, always think about giving. The more you give, the more you gain. And effectively, you nurture and build these very strong relationships. So I've talked a lot about, building these strategic networking skills and putting in the effort and building a community. And you kind of go, wow, that all sounds great, but how do I go about, doing this? How do I create this community? And how do I build these meaningful relationships? And I'm going to talk about these three things. So in order to do this, you need to become a connector, a problem solver, and a ladder. And let me share a bit more about this. So what do I mean by becoming a connector? First thing is to be proactive. So when you go and connect with people, don't just wait for people to reach out to you. take the initiative, and regularly check in with all of your contacts. So if you make connections or contacts, just check in, not just when you need something. Does someone have a question? Okay. I'm going to keep on going, but if there is a question or something you want to share, please do not hesitate to just ask me. So where was I? Yeah. So to be proactive and to take the initiative. And with your contacts, you can regularly check in with them, basically ask them about their projects, their challenges, their successes. This shows that you're genuinely interested. And if they had a success, congratulate them or wish them. Like, keeping this ongoing interaction going is, it creates genuine connection over time of building this relationship. And you can see in this kind of an interaction, you don't have to be extroverted. Introverts can just as easily thrive, because this is not about walking into a room and making a great conversation or a presentation in a very short period. It's actually about creating these sustained relationships. And you'll think about this in your life, you know what I mean? You have friends. I mean, obviously you didn't build them overnight. Or you say someone is my best friend, you've probably known them for a long time or many years. And exactly the same thing happens with these deep networking connections. These are just corporate relationships. They're not friendships. They're business interactions and business relationships. But what it enables you to do is build these deep and meaningful connections by showing that you genuinely care about their well-being. The second thing that you could do is master the art of introduction. So to be a connector, what you're looking to do is every person you meet, and they say they just walk into a room and they say, oh my God, I'm late coming into this meeting. I'm so sorry because I had a plumbing problem and my water main broke and there was water everywhere and I had to come in. Now you know someone who's a plumber. Connect them. It sounds so simple. It's got nothing to do with the actual business proposition, but you've actually made a connection. A buyer's agent walks in and says, look, I want to meet an accountant or a financial planner. You know an accountant or financial planner. Connect them. Making these introductions makes you the focal point of this relationship as well and deepens the value that you add. So all of this being a connector is about creating visibility. Creating visibility for who you are and making yourself stand out in a crowd. And also when you introduce to people, rather than just say, hey, Varun, meet Ajay, and Varun does this and Ajay does this and read out their titles. Talk about something that they may be a common interest. Hey, both of you love playing tennis, or you both run in marathons, or whatever it might be. Talk about that. Oh, you both play chess. Did you know? Introduce them with something that they do. So what it does is it immediately sparks this conversation, and it makes you be the focal point of making this introduction. The second aspect that I'm going to talk about, how you can create these amazing networks, is be a problem solver. So when someone mentions that they're having a problem and someone who does that, mention that, vouch for them, and connect them. Similarly, when you're making these connections and when you're talking to people, always be positive. I always find that, creating a smile, being positive and proactive, it really adds value because nobody really wants to connect with a constant complainer. So staying upbeat and positive, it's really contagious and, makes you stand out among the crowd as well. And the third aspect I'm going to talk about is create a networking group of your own. So what you do is, say, for example, you're at the university. You could then call a bunch of people, invite a whole group of people and create a networking event. If there's a topic that people want to talk about, create a talk around that. Similarly, if you think there's a topic of relevance to you, even if it is, for example, chess, and all the students who play chess, call them, create a club, and there it is. Now you have a small community of people who are connected by this shared interest, who are now built a closer relationship with you. And so creating these communities of your own also makes you the focal point of this and creates visibility and value for your relationships. And the third aspect is to be a ladder. And this is all about creating your personal brand. So the first one I talked about, being a connector, is all about creating visibility. Being a problem solver is all about creating value to your relationships. And being a ladder is all about creating personal brand. And what do I mean by being a ladder? So here are some things you could do. Firstly, leverage social media. Utilizing platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, sharing industry secrets, knowledge, insights that you might have, experiences that you have had that you want to share, not only establishes you as a thought leader, but also attracts more people into your network and, who value your insights. And so, for example, I post a lot on LinkedIn. That's probably how Varun found my profile. We connected, and now I'm here providing this talk. So, it's a great way to connect with people on these social platforms, but it's also a great way for you to share. So if you think about it, I don't know how many students there are in your university, but if there are, 250 people coming out of a university, and I'm an employer, and I'm looking at everybody, and I've got 20 applications, for a role, and I'm going to be looking at all of you and all of your LinkedIn profiles. Without a doubt, all employers do that. These days, social media plays a massive role in who you are. And if I log into your profile and I find that you've shared all these great insights and you're connected to, I don't know, 3,500 people on LinkedIn and have a great profile, you are definitely going to stand out more than your counterpart who may not have all these, connections or all these thought-provoking ideas that they might have shared. And when I talk about sharing on social media, such as LinkedIn or platforms like that, from a business perspective, so not from a social perspective and connecting with your friends and posting what you ate for breakfast or lunch or whatever. This is business connections. And here it's not about taking a whole lot of selfies of yourself or photos of yourself. I mean, you can have photos of yourself, of course, but it is what content you're sharing. And these could be insights. These could be personal experiences if you don't have a lot of insights. It could be, sharing things about what you've learned in the course you studied or what where you went. So, for example, you've heard this talk from me. Tomorrow, you could put a post about it and tag me. I have about 12,000 followers who are all going to be seeing this once I'm tagged, and they will see your profile and they may follow you or connect with you, or etc. So this is how you can create this web. And I'm not necessarily talking about this talk, but you could do the same to your professors, your workmates, or even if you meet someone socially who might be someone, a relative or someone who's in a senior corporate position. Connect with all these people. So every time you post something or you share some insights, your entire network is seeing what you're sharing. It makes you stand out in a great light. Also, what you could do is join professional networks, like Club Sankalp is one of them. But you could join, like, the CA association, or if there is a chamber of commerce in your local area or whatever. Find communities and or areas of shared interest and join them. The more groups you join, the more places you go. One, you hone your skills of networking, you connect. But two, you connect with such different people that you can now connect people from across your networks to one another and form these fabulous relationships. And also, in this being a ladder, I'm going to talk to you about garnering support for your networking initiatives. So, for example, if you are creating a small networking community, you're hosting Friday night or a Friday at lunchtime brown bag lunch. Every time people just bring their own brown bag, bring their own lunch, sit down in the room, and then you have someone talk about a particular topic, or everybody go around the room and share their insights on a particular topic. You could just create a political discussion around a political topic, or a social matter, saying because you talked about clothing drives, blood drives, supporting a charity, whatever it may whatever may take your interest, but
Recording stopped.
organize that organize that initiative, and also get formal support for it. So basically, go through your organization and ask your professors to be part of this initiative, or employers to be part of this initiative, or target some organizations, Tata or Birla, large organizations within your area who could provide you these connections. And all of these, what it does is it allows you to gain visibility, value, and create a personal brand for yourself, which allows you to network better in the future. Now, this is something I talked about, navigating power dynamics. We come to the topic 2 of this conversation. And basically, this is about connecting with those people above your station and those people below your station. And I use the word station, but what I mean is a hierarchy, whether it be corporate hierarchy, educational hierarchy, or whatever it might be. And I'm going to share this example here of Orson Welles. Now, Orson Welles, I don't know whether you've heard of him, is a great filmmaker, and he made this movie called Citizen Kane. He's a famous director. And anyway, he happened to be in Venice for a film festival. And around the same time, Winston Churchill, who's the World War II English Prime Minister, also happened to be in Venice. Now, Orson Welles was sitting there talking to a Russian, investor, and he was trying to raise some funds for his next film, for his film endeavor. He was sitting in this room, and then he'd known Winston Churchill casually. Anyway, Winston Churchill walks into this cafe where he was sitting and just nods at him. And, Orson nods back. And basically, this Russian investor looks at him and says, "Oh my God, you know Winston Churchill." He signs up for some funding straight away. The next day, Orson Welles is walking in the beach and he sees Winston Churchill and he says, Mr. Churchill, he says, "Yesterday you nodded at me and it really helped me out because this person thought I knew you and, signed up for funding straight away." And, it was great. And then Winston Churchill said, "Oh, no worries." And the next day he walks into the cafe in this hotel, and Orson Welles is sitting there with a couple of other investors also seeking investment. So Winston Churchill gets up from his table where he's sitting and he just bows. He does a big bow and does a salute to Orson and then walks away. Straight away, by the end of that day, Orson Welles had got funding for his entire movie because everybody thought, "Oh my God, this man knows Winston Churchill," and it just elevated him in the eyes of everybody else. So what this shows you is that, the status does matter. And connecting with people above and below your station and creating these networks really is going to benefit you in your future career and endeavors. And one of the things people say in there's a neuroscience journal called the Neuron Perspective, and neuroscientists call it mentalizing. So say, for example, you go and you're talking to your professor and you're talking to them about some initiative and they say, "Oh, look, not interested. Oh, sorry, I can't come to this initiative at the moment. Apologies." Immediately you start mentalizing. You start thinking maybe they don't value you. They don't value you as much. Or maybe, you're not respected enough, or all these thoughts that go into your head because you're trying to connect with someone above your station. Same thing happens if you're trying to connect with an employer or your boss or something like that. Whereas the other way, looking at it from the other angle, this professor or your boss who said they can't come, they probably had no malintention and they probably didn't even think about this at all because they just thought, "Oh, sorry, I've got something on that day, or I've got to take my child to school," or whatever it was. And they just said, no, can't do it. And this is where, sometimes with asking people above your station, if the answer is no, don't worry about it. Ask again, because a lot of the times the next initiative, most likely you will engage them. And the same if it is you're talking to someone below your station. It's always great to explain the why. Whether you're going to go and attend or do something, or whether you're not going to do it, still it is great to share these insights. So clarity between these, between the connections is the greatest way to navigate power dynamics. So if you believe that, you want to do a project that you think you should be given an opportunity to do, the best thing is to, explain. I think that I should be, given this project for these various reasons. I believe that I can bring XYZ value. I've got these experiences, and really, articulate the detail of what's going on and create clarity around all communications. And I put the third aspect here is net play. And I say net play levels the field. And what I mean by that is, for me, that's just golf. So for example, if there is your boss and you're trying to interact with them, or your professor, a great way to connect with them or level the playing field is invite them to do an activity with you, such as golf or such as tennis or such as going for a walk. Because what that does is eliminates this hierarchy and makes it all about enjoying an activity together. Because when you're playing golf, for all you know, you might be better than your professor, or tennis, you might be a greater player than them. So now you've kind of equaled or level the playing field a little bit more. And now this is the most important part of all, right? I'm going to share, which is the power of the ask. Now, I talked about it before with all networking. You built a connection, you've added value, you've connected with them to some people, you've kept inquiring about their projects, their initiatives, what they're doing, and you built a strong relationship with this person. Now, it's time for the ask. You finished your course, you're going for a job, you want to ask them for a job, or you want to ask them to give you a mandate, or you're trying to sell them a product, you've set up your own business, and now you want them to give you a mandate or a project, or whatever the task might be. So you're here to ask, and the power of the asking. There are 3 rules to asking. The first one, I say closed mouths don't get fed, but only take one bite. And what I mean by that is the first and most important thing about the asking is asking itself. So whatever it is you're going to say, you're going to articulate what it is effectively, but you can only ask once. So it's really important to know when is the right time to ask, and that's, I'm going to come back to rule 2 for that. But the first part of it is really working out what is it that you're going to ask and what, and the one thing you're going to ask for. And in any relationship, right? And even when you sell, I've had a long career in sales and marketing, and every time I sell, I always say, there's one point in time, say I'm at Emajin Golf and I'm looking to get new members. I can walk up to, someone and say, hey, Varun, do you want to be a member of Emajin Golf? I mean, this is an Australian business, so it's not really relevant. This is an example that I'm using. Hey, would you like to be a member of this Emajin Golf? Once I've asked this question and Varun says, no, I'm really not interested in doing this, that is it. The sales process is completed. People say, oh, when someone says no, that all they mean is not now, and perhaps you can go ask them in the future or whatever. But I don't actually believe in that. I say that sales is ended. You may very well go ask the same person the same question in 6 months' time and 2 years' time, and the answer might be yes. But that is a complete different sales process. In this process, you can only ask once. So it's really important that you ask at the correct time. The second thing is knowing when to ask. So as you build this relationship, you have to ensure that they are in the right frame of mind and in the right position to be able to say yes to your ask. So you're basically asking for one thing, and you're ensuring that when you do ask, it is the right time when they're ready. So for example, you're looking to get a major project mandate from a company. It's really important to research and ensure that they have the financial means to back this project. Otherwise, you can ask by all means, but the timing is just wrong, and you're not going to generate that return. And the third aspect that I'm going to talk about here is to close every conversation with a tangible advance of the relationship. And I kind of use an example from Westpac in my days at Westpac, which is a large bank in Australia, is basically I used to, coach these. So I used to work in sales for a long time. And there was a time when I was also mentoring and coaching up and coming sales staff and private bankers and investment bankers on pitching and converting, large syndicated debt facilities or getting mandates. And when I say mandates, I mean getting, getting the project. So effectively, what I would tell everybody is you have a meeting and say it's an interview, even if it's an interview, you're going for a job interview. The one thing that I always say never do is shake their hand and say, hey, thank you so much. It's been lovely to meet you. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. What does that even mean? Oh, lovely to meet you. Look forward to hearing from you. I always say, before you leave, make sure that to look them in the eye and ask for their business. One of the things I like to say, one of these quotes is, what do you get in life? What do you get in life? Only things you ask for. So if you don't ask, you ain't getting that. So I always look at it and I say, if say, for example, in a job interview, you look them in the eye at the end of this thing and say, it has been a great pleasure to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to, come and interview here today. And I genuinely would like to be considered for this job, and I believe that I'd be a valuable addition to your organization because I bring this skills, and I think that I can add value this way. And I'd really like the opportunity to come and work for you in this business. What you've done is you've showed your interest and you've clearly articulated that this is something that you want to do, and you ask for their business. And I should always say in Westpac, make sure you look at them and say, look at the client at the end of this and say, look, Tom, I would love to be given this mandate. We at Westpac believe that we are significantly well suited to serving your needs and significantly well suited to, establishing this mandate and getting you the right pricing and the right fulfillment of this syndicated debt facility in the right time frame. We believe that we can partner with you and add value to your organization, and I'd love to get the opportunity to be able to work with you. I would like you to seriously consider us for this mandate. Something along those lines. I mean, these are just some words I've used, but clearly articulate that you want this, you are ready, and this is the value you try to bring before you leave, and just not like, oh, it's been lovely to meet you, great meeting you, or whatever. Same for the networks. Whenever you make a connection, just say, look, I've genuinely thoroughly enjoyed connecting with you, and I believe that there's significant value that we can add to one another. So sharing this clearly, articulates this. And also in this one more thing I'm going to leave you with is the wrong way to ask is to be indirect. The best way to ask is to make sure you're direct and clearly articulate that this is the ask. So nobody's like left guessing what it is you thought. And the second aspect as well is, ensure that it is not a surprise. I always say no surprises. Make sure that if you're going to ask for a job or ask for a project or want to come and pitch or anything, whatever it might be, that you have mentioned it a few times, you've raised it multiple times. It cannot be a surprise. You can't just come in and say at the end, this is what I like. So, so this is kind of, what I want to talk about in that area. And asking is very powerful, and asking correctly is significantly more powerful and really will stand you in a better light. And last but not the least, we're coming to the very end of this presentation. I'm going to talk about super connectors. And who super connectors are people who purposefully cause different worlds and communities to interact. And what do I mean by that? Say this is you, and you could be easily a super connector, where you connect your university to your work, to your home, to your social activities, and connect people from one area to another. And finally, I talked about the law of averages before, and I said, no matter what happens, it is the law of averages. What I'm going to say is there's always exceptions to every rule. And the exception is that working hard, and effectively creating this network around you and creating a community around you allows you to be that exception. So I'm going to encourage all of you to be the exception and share that. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to open up to any questions you may have or any additional insights I can provide. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to hand over to Varun and Rohit to take over this meeting. And I hope these insights were valuable. And the one thing I will say before I finish off is please do find me on LinkedIn, Raj Narayan. Perhaps Varun can share my handle, Raj Narayan from Emajin Golf. And do connect with me or send me a message, and I'd love to connect with you and hear more about you. And also, if any of you are interested in have specific networking concerns or specific issues that you want to chat to me in private, you're more than happy to message me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and absolutely, I'd love to, assist you in any way I can.
Ma'am, there are some questions, like 3 questions people have asked. I will pin you in your chat box.
You're putting that in the chat box, are you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can't see it. Can someone tell me? Look, I'm not able to see it in the chat. Can you just read it out to me? What was the first question?
Is it visible now?
Oh, there you are. What should be the first? Can everybody see this?
Yes,
Right,
ma'am. We
fabulous.
can see it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the first question and keep on going through these questions. And if there's more, you can add it in the bottom. And so the first one is, what should be the first approach to make or develop strategy if you're new to the field? So what I would like to say is, firstly, always start with a goal in mind. So if you're a student and your goal is to get a job at the end of your course, for example, then you're basically saying, what are the areas I want to work in? Do I want to work in banking? Do I want to work in consulting? Do I want to work for a company? Now target people in these organizations, connect with them through social media. If there is a networking event at your university, attend them. For example, if you want to work in the property industry and it's a property forum somewhere that somebody's talking on it, attend them. So this is kind of how you create a strategy. If you're new, you work out what do you want to do and try it out. Try out a small event. Try out a small networking event. Go to another university, or like, for example, when I was doing MBA, we used to have, Deloitte or KPMG or companies coming on campus interviews, and you have social functions. So always find areas where you can go meet these people that you want to connect with. And always I say, you make sure you're in the right room, make sure you're in the right place to kind of, ask these questions. Now, and that's the first one. So how do you measure ROI of your networking efforts? And what metrics do you consider most valuable? Now, this is a very, very good question, because like everything in life, you need to have ROI. And a way to network and connect with people is to join various different groups. And the way to measure your ROI is, what is the goal you had in mind? So for example, if your goal was to get a new role, or if your goal was to say, I want to start my own business and I want to get investors to fund in my business, well, the measure of the ROI is basically the end outcome. And as you spend time networking, so you say you go to this event and you meet a few people, you work out whether anybody in the room, not whether they have helped you or not, are they in a position to help you? So if they were an investor and they didn't give you investment, that's a different thing. Are they in a position to invest in your company? And if the answer is yes, then it is your role to build this relationship and nurture this relationship forward. And the ROI is always driven by what it is you're looking to achieve. But having said that, the one thing I will say is, I love networking for the sake of it. And I have built relationships that are, long-standing, over 15 years, where I have known someone and our paths have crossed over various times in life, but we've never actually done business with one another. And 15 years later, I go and provide them with a pitch, or they've come in and helped my business or invested in my business. So sometimes it's great to just build strong relationships with senior, high caliber business people. Even people within your university, right? Yes, of course, you're trying to build relationships with senior people. Everybody's trying to do that. But everybody here in this call today, everybody in your university, you're going to form an amazing peer group. Some of the people that I went to university with, they're CEOs of listed companies now. They come and do a keynote at my networking events, complimentary, So, I don't no charge. So I have built these networks where people come in and people do me favors by turning up and presenting at my events. So that is the way to connect and measure ROI. But whoever put this question, I'm very happy for you to connect with me. Happy to take a private a Zoom one-on-one and discuss a bit more about this, because that's a very interesting way to think about it, and that's how I think about it as well. Because you're not trying to make friends. This is networking. There needs to be ROI. There needs to be an ask. There needs to be a pitch at the end of this thing. Okay, the second thing is third question. How do I add value to other people while networking? Because the reason we are networking is to create a value. Before that, how can we add? Exactly. That's another great question as well. So how do I add value? Say, for example, I'm connecting with Vidhi Sudhani. I've connected with her and we've just met. We've had a bit of a conversation, and I've picked you there because I see your name next to mine, Vidhi, no particular reason. But so we had a great conversation. And the first thing I want to do is, of course, and Vidhi might be a CEO of a big company. I'm looking to get a job in this company. And our conversation might be, something about econometrics, or it could be, some topic of, or business or human resources, whatever it is. Now, she's a big CEO. I'm a student. What value can I add to her? Recommend a book that you've read about the topic of your discussion. Talk about a research article that you read that drew some insights. So basically, the next day I could connect with Vidhi on LinkedIn saying, Vidhi, great to meet with you yesterday, and what a interesting conversation. In fact, I've read this book. I don't know whether you've read this, but it's called, The 5 Principles of XYZ, and I'd love to recommend this book to you. That is value. You say, hey, Vidhi, you know what? I actually met this other person, Ria, who I think would be a great connection for you, for your organization. Or if you're looking for roles in the property industry and you know 2 people in the property industry, or one of them could be your dad's friend, who may be someone, you're connecting them to somebody. Or as I said before, the plumbing problem, oh, I've got this issue with plumbing, oh, I know a plumber. So what I'm saying is the value can be added in many ways. It could be an article, it could be a journal, it could be a connection to one of your professors who's written a paper on this thing. It could be an invitation for them to come and talk or present at one of your student events. There are so many ways that you could add value, because now you created visibility for them in front of the students. You've elevated them. You made them feel special because you've said, hey, would you like to come and speak at this lunch and learn that I'm running, where people are all going to come with their brown bag lunches and you're going to come and talk in a small group. And these could be future candidates for your business. So these are just some examples of how you can create, but very happy for you to connect with me as well, and we can run through this. Now, I'm not able to see any more questions, Varun. Is there any other questions? Because I felt like it was pretty long before, and now I can't see it anymore. Okay, these are the 3 questions I have, Varun. Is there any more? Okay, so with those 3 questions, I'm going to, there's one more new message. It says no. Okay, so Varun says there aren't any more messages. So look, I'm just going to say thank you for listening to me, giving me the opportunity. Thank you for turning up on a Saturday afternoon to listen to Strategic Networking. Just by the sheer fact of you all being here means that you're looking to grow and looking to develop yourselves personally. And that is a great step and a great first step in itself. Joining a club like Club Sankalp, fantastic, well done. I'm really, impressed by each and every one of you. These are all the initiatives. Not all students are all members. These are all the initiatives that make you stand apart. And when you're putting in this job application, you can still say, I contributed to the blood drive. I raised funds for charity. I did this. I did that. These are all factors that are going to really benefit you. But even within the community itself, take on leadership positions, maybe be the treasurer of this, or be a volunteer or support in some initiative. All of these will stand you in great stead. And if any of you are looking to have any more questions or want to connect with me, do not hesitate to do so. I went to university in Hyderabad a long time ago, so I'd be we have some commonality, and I'd be very happy to share and connect with you and share some insights. And it's a great connection and relationship to have anyway. And we're talking about networking. So first step of networking is to network with me, and then obviously network with everybody on this call and connect with one another. And I wish you the very, very best in your journey, both at university and afterward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was an insightful session. We certainly received some valuable advice on networking and its principles. Hope you all enjoyed the event and learned something from it. We would like to thank all our participants for their patience and participation. Our heartfelt thanks to our club mentor, Professor Madhvi Garikaparthi, for her constant support. We would also like to thank our coverage partners, Newswire and Narayan, promotional partner IBS Messenger, and the entire team of Club Sankalp for making this event a grand success. Thank you.